Your obedience is not just prayer, it's immortal capital. Are you ignoring your eternal asset ledger? Learn the compound interest law to secure your infinite governing destiny now. Stop investing in failure. Are you forfeiting your immortal inheritance? Here is a strategic reality that redefines every financial time and relationship decision you make today. You are not merely living out the next few decades, you are perpetually building your eternal asset ledger. If your focus remains solely on accumulating wealth that rusts, depreciates, and remains vulnerable to earthly attack, you are actively annulling the opportunity to secure an immortal inheritance guaranteed by the highest law of the kingdom. This is the vision crisis of the modern believer. They treat eternal reward as an abstract spiritual concept rather than a legally secured property right tied directly to their strategic covenant stewardship in this life. They fail to realize that the kingdom operates on a digital accounting system where every act of obedience is immediately converted into compounding, immortal capital. The consequence is a life lived below the maximum yield, focused on temporary rewards, violation 5, and missing the strategic opportunity to leverage this brief temporal existence to purchase eternal, unassailable assets. In this definitive session, we unveil the strategic law of eternal legacy, the legal framework that guarantees your future position, authority, and reward. We will dissect the 3 digital stewardship zones, where you are currently accumulating capital, and reveal the eternal compound interest law, the mechanism Jesus uses to exponentially multiply your investments, ensuring your obedience today secures a vast, governing destiny tomorrow. This is the blueprint for shifting your focus from earthly provision to immortal inheritance. The legal basis, the deed of inheritance. To initiate the strategic law of eternal legacy, you must establish its absolute foundation, the deed of inheritance. The core principle is this: your eternal reward is not optional grace. It is a legally guaranteed contractual payment for services rendered and covenant obligations fulfilled. Strategic deep dive. The covenantal guarantee. The promise of eternal legacy is anchored in the binding, legal structure of the new covenant established by Jesus. The binding covenant promise. The certainty of your future asset ledger rests on the redemption deed signed by Jesus. Topic 17. Hebrews 9:15 establishes the legal transfer. Christ is the mediator of a new covenant, so that those who are called may receive the promised eternal inheritance. The term promised eternal inheritance is a legal terminus, a committed asset transfer based on the execution of a prior contract, the new covenant. Your legacy is not contingent on feelings. It is a contractual guarantee based on the king's integrity. Strategic differentiation. Depreciating versus compounding assets. Earthly assets. These are inherently subject to depreciation, volatility, and eventual loss. Matthew 6:19. They represent temporary vulnerable capital. Eternal assets. These are immortal capital, protected by the invisible legal barrier. Topic 16, and are guaranteed to accumulate through the law of eternal compound interest. Part 6. By converting earthly resources into eternal assets through stewardship, you are engaging in the most secure investment vehicle available. The legal requirement for stewardship. The deed requires stewardship accountability. Topic 12. The kingdom does not simply grant rewards, it rewards capacity demonstrated through management. Your ability to faithfully manage the 3 digital zones on earth is the legal proof of your capacity to govern the much more. Matthew 25:21, in eternity. This life is your financial and governing audition for your eternal role. This legal basis confirms that the law of eternal legacy is a strategically secured system where current covenant compliance directly dictates the size, scope, and authority of your future immortal assets. Zone 1. Digital Financial Stewardship. The first zone where you accumulate your immortal inheritance is through digital financial stewardship, the strategic use of temporary wealth to purchase eternal capital. The core principle is every resource deployed in covenant obedience is converted into immortal capital, securing future governing authority. Strategic deep dive, converting the temporary into the eternal. This zone dictates your future access to kingdom resources and influence. The accumulation of immortal capital. Every intentional act of giving, tithing, or funding kingdom expansion is immediately logged in the heavenly asset ledger as vulnerable asset conversion. You are using currency, which has a finite shelf life, to purchase an asset that is incorruptible and perpetually compounding. This is the highest form of strategic investment. Legal proof. This investment confirms your primary allegiance to the king over mammon. Topic 13. Legally validating your claim on the unassailable treasury. The proof of governing capacity. Your financial stewardship is the primary evidence submitted to the heavenly courts regarding your governing capacity. Topic 12. If you are faithful with temporary, external wealth, earthly mammon, you will be entrusted with true, eternal riches. Luke 16. Strategic outcome. The eternal reward for financial stewardship is not just a crown, it is governing authority over vast future resources and territories. The right to administer the kingdom's wealth. The size of your giving determines the scope of your future financial rule. The legal activation via hidden provision. To maximize the eternal asset return, your giving must often operate under the law of hidden provision. Topic 16. Anonymous giving carries the highest eternal compound interest rate because it completely bypasses the fleeting reward of man. Violation 5. Decree. I declare this resource to be immortal capital, legally registered as my eternal inheritance investment, activating the law of eternal compound interest for my future governing role. This zone confirms that your checkbook is not merely an expense tracker, it is your eternal investment portfolio. Zone 2. Digital Talent Stewardship. The second zone for accumulating your immortal inheritance is through digital talent stewardship, the strategic deployment of your skills, time, and intellect for eternal purpose. The core principle is your time and skill invested in the kingdom are recorded as a perpetual service contract, guaranteeing future creative authority. Strategic deep dive. The eternal service contract. This zone determines your future contribution and creative roles in the eternal kingdom. The registration of perpetual service. Every hour spent developing a skill, every use of your intellectual property, and every moment dedicated to serving the kingdom's assignment. Topic 15 is logged as service capital. This forms a perpetual service contract that validates your commitment to the king's work. Legal proof. This stewardship proves you value the eternal assignment over temporary comfort and recognition. It legally confirms your operational identity as a contributing co-heir. The acquisition of creative authority. The reward for faithfully using your talents is not merely praise, but enhanced creative authority in the age to come. The talent you proved faithful with here will be multiplied and upgraded eternally, granting you the ability to bring forth kingdom solutions. Topic 12 on a much grander scale. Luke 19:17. Strategic outcome. If you are diligent in using your talent to serve the body now, you are securing a position of high spiritual and creative honor in the future. Governing structure. The legal implementation via time investment. The most valuable asset in this zone is time. Investing time into prayer, Zone 2, Topic 16, study and ministry, is the direct conversion of a finite earthly resource into infinite creative capital. Decree: I declare this time and skill to be legally registered as my eternal service capital, activating my creative authority in the age to come and securing my position in the King's future governing solutions. This zone confirms that your resume and calendar are not just professional documents. They are your eternal service contract and talent ledger. Zone 3. Digital Relationship Stewardship. The third zone for accumulating your immortal inheritance is through digital relationship stewardship, the strategic use of your influence to acquire eternal territorial assets, souls. The core principle is, every relationship managed with covenant love and leveraged for eternal gain is converted into perpetual territorial assets. Strategic deep dive. Acquiring perpetual territory. This zone dictates your future intimacy, co-governance partners, and the extent of your spiritual territory. Acquiring eternal territorial assets. The ultimate asset is the human soul. Every soul won, every relationship restored, and every believer strengthened through your influence is logged as a perpetual territorial asset added to your account. Legal proof. This stewardship proves your commitment to the King's primary mission, redemption, legally validating your authority to govern the redeemed. This asset is the most valuable because it is immortal, unlike money or temporary skill. The reward of intimacy and co-governance. The eternal reward in this zone is twofold: intimacy, closer proximity and friendship with Jesus, and co-governance, ruling alongside those you helped redeem. You are not just saving souls, you are acquiring eternal partners in future rule. Strategic outcome. Your current network of influence is a microcosm of your future governing team. Faithful management ensures you are surrounded by trusted co-heirs in eternity. The legal execution via reconciliation. Practicing radical forgiveness and pursuing reconciliation. Topic 4. Is a direct application of kingdom law that legally removes relational debt and secures the eternal asset. Decree: I declare this relationship, managed under covenant law, to be legally registered as perpetual territorial asset. I activate the eternal legacy to draw all assigned souls into the King's rule, sealing my future intimacy with Jesus. This zone confirms that your contact list and social sphere are not just for communication, they are your eternal territorial acquisition map. The guarantee mechanism. The Eternal Compound Interest Law. The strategic law of eternal legacy is enforced by a binding financial mechanism, the Eternal Compound Interest Law. This law ensures that your current small investments yield exponential, boundless returns. The objective is to understand how time, faith, and integrated stewardship combine to produce infinite, multiplying eternal capital. The greatest strategic advantage in the kingdom is that the returns are not linear, they are exponential and perpetual. Strategic deep dive. The mechanics of exponential growth. This law is triggered by the integration of your stewardship zones over time. The legal basis for compounding. The principle is derived from the parable of the talents, Matthew 25, where the faithful steward received the return on the principal plus the profit interest. Jesus did not just seek the return of the original capital, he expected the multiplication generated by wise stewardship. This expectation is the legal mandate for the Eternal Compound Interest Law. This interest is not calculated annually, but continuously and perpetually from the moment the initial capital, your obedience, is registered in the Heavenly Ledger. Part 7. The integration multiplier. The highest compounding rates are achieved when you integrate the 3 digital stewardship zones, Parts 3, 4, 5. Example, when you use your digital financial capital Zone 1 to fund a ministry that requires your digital talent Zone 2, which results in the acquisition of digital relationship assets Zone 3, the investment is recorded 3 times and compounded simultaneously by the kingdom's 3 reward systems. The total return becomes geometrically larger than the sum of its individual parts. Strategic requirement. You must intentionally seek opportunities where one act of obedience fuels accumulation in all 3 zones. The time variable, the immortal multiplier. Unlike earthly investment where time eventually runs out, the eternal compound interest law uses time as an immortal multiplier. Since the reward is eternal, the interest accrues forever, solidifying your position of governing authority. The longer your stewardship remains faithful, the higher your legal right to an exponential share of the kingdom's future resources. This mechanism confirms that the law of eternal legacy does not just conserve your investment, it ensures that your temporary life generates infinite compounding returns on your obedience, securing the maximum possible reward for your destined co-governance role. Executing authority. Submitting the eternal accounting statement. To activate and enforce the eternal compound interest law, you must engage in the legal process of submitting the eternal accounting statement, formally declaring your faithful stewardship to the heavenly courts. The objective is to formalize your acts of stewardship as legally recognized sealed investments in your immortal inheritance. Your failure to acknowledge your contribution is a strategic neglect of the eternal accounting system. Strategic deep dive, the legal reporting protocol. The kingdom requires faithful reporting to legally apply the appropriate multiplier Part 6 to your assets. The legal duty of accounting. As a co-heir and steward, Topic 12, you have a legal duty to account for the king's assets entrusted to you, your time, talent, resources. This is not about bragging, it is about providing the legal evidence required to confirm the integrity of the covenant and secure your reward. Luke 19:15. Action. You are submitting a formal legal report, your confession, declaration of faith, and service that activates the final phase of the transaction, the 3-step asset registration process. The accounting statement. Identification. The asset tagging. Clearly identify the action as belonging to one of the 3 digital stewardship zones, e.g., this anonymous gift is digital financial capital. Conversion. The declaration of value. Verbally declare the conversion of the temporary act into an immortal asset. I declare this act of forgiveness to be legally converted into Perpetual Territorial Asset, Zone 3. Sealing the witness invocation. Invoke the Holy Spirit, Topic 1, as the heavenly recorder and legal witness to the transaction. This action seals the investment from all forms of theft or nullification. Topic 14. The guarantee of recording. This rigorous reporting ensures that every act, especially those performed under the law of hidden provision, Topic 16, is legally registered and not missed. This is the strategic countermeasure against the enemy's attempt to steal your reward by making you forget your obedience. Violation 5. This process confirms that strategic reporting is the legal mechanism that enforces the eternal compound interest law, securing your maximum return on investment. The legal risks. The waste of covenant. The strategic law of eternal legacy comes with a severe warning regarding the legal risk of the wasteful covenant, the danger of failing to meet the obligation of stewardship. The objective is to recognize that the deliberate mismanagement of resources leads to the forfeiture of eternal reward and authority. The parable of the talents makes it clear the consequence for inactivity is the loss of what was already given. Strategic deep dive, forfeiture of reward. While salvation is a gift, eternal legacy is a reward tied to governance. The violation of stewardship obligation. The greatest legal risk is waste, laziness, and mismanagement. When you bury your talents, Zone 2, or consume resources meant for investment, Zone 3, financial, you commit a violation of stewardship obligation, Topic 12. Legal consequence. This violation does not result in the annulment of your salvation, but it leads to the significant reduction and forfeiture of your eternal reward and your future governing role. 1 Corinthians, you will be saved, but as through fire, having lost the asset accumulation that grants authority. The strategy of depreciation, every resource used for selfish, temporary consumption, e.g., time dedicated only to entertainment, money spent on fleeting vanity, is an asset that is legally depreciated to zero. These resources were intended to be converted into immortal capital, Part 3, but they were wasted on temporary gratification. Legal defense. You must perpetually reaffirm the legal ownership of Jesus over every resource. Topic 13. Using the law of eternal legacy to counter the temptation of waste. The annulment of compound interest. The greatest loss is the annulment of the eternal compound interest law, Part 6. By failing to invest the principal, your initial talent or resource, you lose the exponential returns that would have accrued forever. The cost of waste is infinite opportunity loss. This section confirms that active strategic stewardship is the non-negotiable legal condition for securing the full weight of your immortal inheritance and avoiding the shame of the wasted covenant. The immortal stewardship lifestyle. To perpetually accumulate assets under the strategic law of eternal legacy, you must adopt the immortal stewardship lifestyle, making every daily decision through the filter of eternal return. The objective is to establish a daily protocol that guarantees maximum eternal capital accumulation across all 3 digital stewardship zones. This lifestyle treats every moment as an irrevocable investment opportunity. Strategic deep dive. Daily Asset Acquisition Protocol. This protocol ensures that your focus remains on acquiring assets that defy time and decay. Calculating the eternal cost of time. Every moment spent must be assigned an immortal value. You must stop viewing time as merely a clock and start viewing it as finite earthly capital to be converted into infinite eternal capital, Zone 2. Action. Before committing to any non-essential activity, ask, what is the eternal return rate on this time expenditure? Does this activity contribute to my perpetual service contract? Protocol. Dedicate the first hour of your day, the 0-hour investment, to the highest yield activities, Prayer Zone 3 expansion and Study Zone 2 skill refinement. Strategic network investment. Convert your personal relationships into opportunities for eternal territorial acquisition, Zone 3. Action. Intentionally look for opportunities to serve, forgive and reconcile, Topic 4. Every act of love done in the name of the King is a legal acquisition of relational assets that will co-govern with you in eternity. Protocol. Treat every person you encounter as a potential immortal asset that must be secured for the King's portfolio. The perpetual declaration of ownership. Maintain the legal boundary around your resources by consistently declaring ownership over them. Action. Verbally declare, my finances, my talents, and my time are legally owned by Jesus Christ. I am an executor of eternal legacy. I refuse the legal risk of waste. Protocol. This constant declaration enforces your covenant compliance and ensures that your mind operates from the framework of immortal stewardship, maximizing your return on every decision. This lifestyle ensures that your temporary existence becomes a perpetual asset-generating engine for your eternal governing destiny. Summable and Eternal Legacy Law Activation. You now hold the final blueprint for securing your ultimate destiny, the strategic law of eternal legacy. Your current obedience is not just about today, it is about guaranteeing your position and reward forever. Summary of the Eternal Asset Strategy. The legal basis, the deed of inheritance, guarantees your reward as a contractual payment for covenant stewardship. The three zones. You accumulate immortal capital through strategic management of your finances, talents, and relationships. The mechanism. The Eternal Compound Interest law ensures your investment yields exponential, unassailable returns forever. Your final strategic challenge. Do not let this knowledge become wasted capital. You must activate this law to secure your future. I now command you to take action. Action 1. Identify your primary investment zone. In the comments below, declare the specific digital stewardship zone you will invest in immediately, e.g., I am activating digital talent stewardship now. Action 2. Execute the final legal declaration. Pray this guided prayer with me now, submitting your first eternal accounting statement. King Jesus, I recognize my deed of inheritance. I repent for the sin of waste and passive living. I declare that my finances, talents, and relationships are legally converted into immortal capital. I activate the Eternal Compound Interest law over my life and submit this accounting statement as legal proof of my stewardship. I secure my eternal governing legacy now. Amen. If this blueprint has successfully convinced you that your greatest asset is your eternal legacy, please share this video with one person who is currently wasting their most valuable resource.